Things Not Seen, Day 4, Chapter 12, A Friend. I come in the side door, and the phone's ringing. Bobby, what's going on? Are you all right? I've called 6 times during the past 2 hours, and your father's tried too. Where have you been? Out. What does that mean? Out where? Out. You know, outside, like not inside. It's a nice day, so I went out. But how? Well, I walked down the steps to the side door, then I turned the doorknob, then I pulled on the door, and then I stepped over the threshold, and there I was. I was out. Mom is quiet. Sarcasm makes Dad get loud. Mom gets quiet. So, where did you go? All over. Did you walk? On my very own feet. They worked just fine. But how did you deal with my little problem? Simple. The sun was shining earlier, and it didn't feel that cold, so I just stripped down to nothing, and I went out. Silence. I wish you had told me, or your dad. We need to know where you are, Bobby. You need to know where I am, because you don't think I'm a responsible person? Well, I am. I know how to take care of myself. I'm actually pretty good at it. Silence again, plus a sniffle. I should be home tomorrow, Bobby, probably about noon. They've decided my nose won't need surgery, so that's good, I guess. Not that my nose has ever been some grand thing to be admired. Mom wants to have a conversation, but I don't. So you'll be home around noon? Yes. Then I'll see you when you get here? Good. Okay, well, I got kind of cold outside, and I just got back, and I need a bath now, so I'll see you tomorrow. All right, Bobby. Have a good night, and call if you need to talk to someone. Bobby, your dad and I love you very much. We do. Yep. Goodbye, Bobby. Bye. As I hang up, I know I should have been nicer. I know she's just trying to be a good mom, but that's not what I need right now. It's later, after a great bath, after some microwave lasagna and 2 root beers, after I played my trumpet until my lips hurt, after I've watched the last half of The Terminator on cable. The phone rings. It's right next to me on the couch, but I let it ring. Mom. Maybe Dad. I don't know. I don't want to talk to either of them. I grab the handset just before the answering machine kicks in. Yeah? I pause. About 3 seconds of silence. Yeah? Is that how you answer the phone? It's Alicia. Oh, well, no, I mean, no one calls except my mom and dad, and I'm pretty tired of talking to them, she says. Then I'll try again. And she hangs up. 15 seconds later, the phone rings, and I'm ready. Good evening. This is the Phillips residence. Bobby speaking. She giggles. Much better. Dignified, yet not too stuffy. Now, if you'd said Robert speaking, that would have been too much. Then in a quieter voice, so how are you? Did you thaw out? Yeah, completely. I love our hot water heater. It's one of the greatest inventions. Could be. There's a smile in her voice. But I think the toilet ranks higher. I'm nodding. Right. Plumbing in general. Very good ideas. So how are you? Bored. My ears are worn out. You can only listen to so many audiobooks before everything starts to sound like mush. And then I don't know what to say. I haven't had much practice talking to girls. Not this week. Not ever, really. But I ask, so how bad did I scare you today? Because that's something I want to know. Like, how big of a freak am I, really? Alicia's quiet for a few seconds. It's all I've been thinking about. I mean, about no one being able to see you. And I still don't know if I totally believe it's true. But it has to be. That guy didn't see you, and I know you were there. I waved your arm right in his face, and he didn't see a thing. She asked about when I bumped into her on Tuesday. Like, what was I doing, and how I got to the library, and I tell her about my first trip out, and about the 2 men in the 5th floor bathroom, and then about the accident and me going to the hospital. When I tell her about the tube lady in the bed next to my mom, she starts laughing and tells me I'm making it up. She laughs so hard that she makes those funny little snorts when she tries to breathe in. Then she stops laughing and she says, I think you're so brave, Bobby, really. Like, to go and visit your mom, and this afternoon telling me about what's going on, that was brave too. I can see the look on her face when she says that, and I can feel myself blushing. Nah, you just got me mad, that's all. You were calling me a pervert, remember? And I didn't want you to think that. Another dead end, both of us feeling awkward. Or maybe it's just me, blushing my patented invisible blush. She breaks the vacuum with a question. So, will you come to the library tomorrow? I said, I'd try, remember? Yeah, but how hard are you going to try? Have to see. My mom's coming home from the hospital about 12, so I don't know what's going to be happening around here around 2. Could be all heck breaking loose. But I'll try to come. I really will. So it's a definite maybe. Yep. Okay, bye, Bobby. Bye. Oh, Alicia. Yes? Thanks for calling. You're welcome. Bye. I sit on the couch next to an empty lasagna tin and 2 root beer bottles, but I'm a million miles away. Or maybe only about 10 blocks away. I can see what Alicia's face looks like, and I can see her smile, and then the phone rings. Another courtesy test. I grab it on the first ring and say, Good evening, Miss Van Dorn. You've reached the Phillips residence again. Bobby? Dad. Hey, hi. Dad, how's it going? I try to sound cheerful, but I didn't want it to be Dad, because talking to Dad snaps my missing body back into focus, and for a few minutes I'd forgotten all that. Miss Van Dorn? Dad says. Who's Miss Van Dorn? Someone you don't know, Dad. A friend of mine. I talked to Dad for about 5 minutes, but I'm not thinking about what he's saying. I'm thinking about what I just said about Alicia, about she's a friend, about how it's true. Because already, that's what Alicia is. She's a friend. Chapter 13, Trusting. It's Friday about 12:45 when Mom gets home from the hospital. I'd like to go help her out of the cab, but I can't, so the driver holds her arm and helps her up the front steps. I don't like seeing her move so stiffly, like an old person. I open the door for her, and when it's shut, we hug. I'm actually glad to see her. Then Mom walks slowly around the first floor. I can tell she's not happy with the way the kitchen looks, or the TV room, or anything. That's because she had to call from the hospital and cancel our cleaning service, and she had to do that because of me. But Mom is good. I can tell she wants to start giving orders, but she doesn't, and I'm impressed. All she says is, maybe you could help me get things straightened up a little. So I do. I get out the vacuum cleaner and go to work. But about 1:30, I tell her I'm going out. We're standing in the kitchen, and she's got a sponge mop in her hand, slowly working on a little spilled ice cream. She looks in my direction. What do you mean? And her tone of voice is like the old mom, the director. So I shoot off some sarcasm. Old mom, old Bobby. Remember what I told you yesterday, Mom? Out means outside, out of the house, somewhere that is not here. I'm going out. But why? Before I think, I say, because I'm going to meet someone at the library. She looks on the look on Mom's face shows me how stupid I am. Who? You haven't told anyone about what's happening, have you? I'm a rotten liar, even when people can't see my face. And besides, why should I have to lie? So I take a deep breath and say, yes, I have. I met a girl, a blind girl, and she knows about everything. But it's okay. She's not going to tell anyone. And like she said to me, no one would believe her if she did. Mom grabs the back of a chair with both hands, and the mop handle clatters to the floor. She starts shaking her head. Robert, 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 you promised your father you wouldn't tell a soul, right here in this room. He's going to be so upset about this, and I'm very disappointed in you. Why in the world did you tell her? Why? Because I decided I needed to tell her. It was a special situation, and I decided I could trust her. Have you known this girl long? Since Tuesday. Mom almost shouts. Since Tuesday? This Tuesday? Oh, Robert, this is like trusting a total stranger with your life. Exactly, and that's the part you and Dad still don't get. It's my life. And if I want to talk to someone and trust someone, then I'm going to, no matter what you think. It's my decision, not yours. So that's the mood I leave in the house. And I'm stupid again, because I just yank off my clothes in the back stairwell and run outside. Stupid because even though it's the warmest part of the day and it's sunny, the temperature is only about 42 degrees. It's a case of run or die, so I cover the half mile to the library in record time. And by the time I get my breathing under control and go up to the third floor, it's almost 2. Then I'm there, and I'm looking through the glass in the door to the listening room, and I'm glad I came. She's sitting there right where she was yesterday, her long fingers hovering above the keys of her laptop, head tilted to one side listening. She's got on a dark green sweater and some reddish corduroy pants. There's a thin strand of pearls around her neck. She looks dressed up, prettier than ever. Somebody knows what looks good on this girl. Then I gulp, because she looks like she's dressed for a date. I tap and open the door, step inside, shut it behind me. Hi. Bobby, hi, she smiles, a careful smile. She shuts off the tape player. It's still Hawthorne. So, did your mom get home? Yeah. I feel like I shouldn't be here, and I feel naked, alone with a blind girl, and very naked. Nothing in life prepares a guy for that, not even pretending to be a Greek warrior. I don't sit down. I just stand across the wide oak table from her, my hands on the back of the chair. Alicia's on edge, too. She isn't going to let the conversation slow down. She says, so how's she? How about your dad? My dad wanted to come home, too, but the doctors wouldn't let him, which is good. See, what I hope is that he has to stay away long enough that when he gets out, he can go right back to work. I don't think I could stand being stuck in the house all day with both my folks. Alicia is nodding as if what I'm saying is really interesting to her. But I've stopped talking, so she gives me another prompt. And your mom, she's at home now, right? I'm glad for the help, because all of a sudden, silence seems scary. I mean, what mom said was kind of true. I hardly know this girl, and when I talk, I feel like my voice sounds funny. Yeah, she's home. She's okay, but she's still kind of weak. The taxi guy had to help her up the front steps when she got home. And then the second she got in the house, I had to do some cleaning because I could tell she was grossed out. I mean, I didn't do any dusting or anything while she was gone, but still, it was only 3 days. It's not like the house is a pit or something. While I'm talking, I glance at the door of the listening room. There's a guy there at the window, a man in a tweed jacket about 40 years old, with a big head of wild hair. He stops, looks in, sees Alicia, looks at his watch, and then walks on. Alicia nods. Yeah, my mom's the same way. And my dad, too. Neatness freaks. And now that I can't see anything, it's even worse. They're afraid for me all the time. Like if a shoe is lying on the wrong place, they think I'm going to trip over it and break my neck. I pounce on that idea. You said you've been blind for 2 years, right? Because that's something we haven't talked about yet. She nods. Uh-huh. A little more than 2 years now. I asked about that yesterday, but you didn't tell me how it happened. She shrugs and blushes a little. It just happened. That's the dumb part. It's not like there was some disease or a terrible accident or anything. But like, something had to happen, right? Her upper lip curls into a little sneer. She snaps. Yeah, well, duh, Bobby. I mean, something happened. Of course something happened. I don't know what to say. Talking with her, it's like walking along on ice. I think it's safe, and then I take one more step, and everything starts to crack and buckle. And under the ice, there's this dark river. We're both quiet. Then she takes a deep breath and lets it out slowly. And she smiles a little. Sorry, it's just I don't know how to tell about it. I think about this stuff, but I don't talk about it. I look at her face the whole time, and I can see her thinking, deciding if she wants to talk. And it's like she's going a long way back somewhere so she can look around and remember. Then in a quiet little voice I have not heard before, she starts talking. It just happened 2 years ago. It was night. It was cold, January 19th, 2 days before my birthday. My mom had left the window open. I remember being really cold and waking up without any covers on. I reached over the side of the bed where they usually fall off, and they weren't there, so I reached toward the other side, towards the window, and I fell out of bed. I just fell and hit my head. I didn't think anything about it. It didn't even hurt that much. I just got up and kind of shook it off. She pauses. This is hard for her, but she keeps going, talking in that small voice. I wasn't really awake, so I just grabbed my quilts off the floor and pulled them around me and went back to sleep. But in the morning was horrible. I knew I was awake, but it was like I was still asleep, or like I was lost inside this big, dark thing. But I knew I was home, in my room. I could hear the birds on the feeder outside, and I could feel the sun on my face at the window, feel the cold glass on my fingertips, but I couldn't see a thing. The guy in the tweed jacket is back at the door of the room. Must be waiting for a seminar meeting. He looks in, acts as if he's going to open the door, then leaves again. Alicia takes a long, ragged breath and then wills herself to calm down. You remember how mad I got yesterday when you said you were invisible? Yeah. Well, part of that was because that's exactly how I felt that first morning. That whole first year when I was suddenly the little blind girl. It was like I became invisible. I couldn't see myself. I couldn't see me going to dances or college or grad school. Couldn't see myself becoming an archaeologist. I was never going to get to see the pyramids or the Valley of the Kings, and I couldn't even see getting married or having kids or anything I used to wish about. Everything just disappeared. I could tell other people were looking at me funny. I could feel it, and I could hear it in their voices. I felt like they wished I would just go away. I made them uncomfortable, and I couldn't read the books I loved. I couldn't watch movies, couldn't see sunsets or flowers. It was all invisible, just like me. Like a million different doctors looked at my eyes, and they were all real nice, and they explained what happened, but everyone said it couldn't be fixed. And it was like my parents couldn't see me either. They just saw this thing that was suddenly helpless. They're better now, but still, I'm not their wonderful daughter they were so proud of anymore. Now I'm a big job, a job they can't get rid of, even if they wanted to. Anger then, deep and hot and hurtful. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the man again, the guy with the big hair. He's about 4 feet back from the door, and he looks anxious. He's got an old tan briefcase in one hand. He's standing at an angle where he can see Alicia as she talks. Then he moves, trying to scan the room to see the person who's listening to her. I think, get lost, mister. The room's reserved until 3, and if this girl wants to talk to the walls, that's what she's going to do. What about your friends, I ask? Didn't they help? Her lower lip trembles, and maybe this is one question too many. I really can't take tears, but she pulls back from the edge and she starts talking again. I guess I was popular before it happened, but that didn't help. All the kids that I hung around with just disappeared, all but Nancy Fredericks. She was great. She came over almost every day after school, and she talked, and she just sat there and took it as if I got mad and started calling her terrible names. And when I cried sometimes, she cried too. She could still see me, and she didn't care about the blindness. That first year, my parents had special tutors come to our house and start to teach me Braille and all that blind junk. You know, like, here's your white cane to tap around with, little girl. But it was Nancy who kept me from going crazy. She told me about school and the teachers and the boys and who had a crush on who. We still talk on the phone. It's like she's the only thing that didn't change my life. Everything and everybody else changed. It's like I disappeared along with the whole rest of the world. She's done, and she's self-conscious again. I don't know what to say. I feel like I've been reading her diary. Risky stuff. So I just say, thanks for telling me all that. Why thanks? She asks. She sits back in her chair and pulls her legs up against her chest. I don't know, I say. I guess because you didn't have to tell me. She gets a devilish smile on her face. Like yesterday, when you didn't have to tell me about what's happening to you, right? Yeah, like that. And then I see what she means. Because I did have to tell her. Just like she had to tell me all of this. I had to trust her. Sometimes you have to tell someone else what it's like, because if you don't, you'll go nuts. The Tweety guy is at the door again, and now he's pushing it open, barging right in. Alicia hears the door and turns, putting her feet down as she does. The man says, "Alicia, what are you doing? Who are you talking to?" The color drains from Alicia's face. She says, "What are you doing here?" "I'm here because your mom called and said she thought you might be meeting someone here today, and you thought it would be all right to do a little spying on your little girl. Is that it?" Alicia presses her lips together. She's past the surprise already, and now she's mad. And me? I'm scared, because I'm shut inside a small room with a blind girl and her father, and the man is looking for answers. Chapter 14, Two Committees. So Alicia's dad finds out about me, and then her mom does too. It's not much of a story. It's Friday in the library, and Alicia's taking heat from her dad about why she's talking to the wall for 5 minutes straight, and I can see that she's going to have to start lying for me. And I don't want her to have to do that, so I just begin talking to her dad. And he stutters and squints and passes through all the phases that Mom, Dad, and Alicia have: fear, confusion, disbelief, and then amazement that levels out to a steady curiosity. Of course, for Mom and Dad, the final phase is a steady worry that keeps on chewing at them. But that's because they're my parents, and parents can't help worrying about their kids even if they're fine. So as the great Professor Leo Van Dorn gets over the shock, he immediately starts to theorize, just like my dad did, except that he's an astronomer, so instead of talking calmly about visible light anomalies and refraction indexes like Dad did, he's pacing around the room looking at me from every angle while he runs one hand through his Einstein hair, and he's saying that I'm like a black hole. A different absorptive principle, of course, but quite extraordinary nevertheless. The next person who has to know is Alicia's mom. After all, you can't have 2/3 of the family knowing a juicy secret like the Bobby story. So they all leave the library, and I tell Alicia and her dad it's okay to tell Mrs. Van Dorn as long as they're sure she won't go nuts and call the cops or something. And late Friday afternoon, Alicia's mom passes through the same steps when Alicia and her dad tell her about me. I hear about it later on the phone from Alicia. First, her mom thinks Alicia and her dad are ganging up on her to play a practical joke. When she finally believes them, she goes right to the heart of her problem with the whole situation. She says to Alicia, "What does this young man wear when you meet him?" And Alicia says, "On really cold days, he wears saran wrap, but most of the time he's naked." Mrs. Van Dorn is not amused by this. And my first visit to Alicia's house, that's on Saturday afternoon. It didn't help that Alicia didn't tell her mom that I was coming. I ring the doorbell, and I think it's going to be Alicia, and it's this lady, in an exercise leotard, with her hair up and a headband. Alicia's standing behind her, grinning toward the doorway, and her mom looks around, up and down the sidewalk, and she gets this angry flash in her eyes, and she's about to slam the door shut when I say, "Mrs. Van Dorn, I'm Bobby Phillips. Alicia said I could come over to see her today." And her mom's eyes bug out. She steps back and gasps, and she doesn't know what to do, which is when Alicia pipes up and says, "Sorry, Mom, I forgot to tell you. It's okay, isn't it, if Bobby comes in for a while?" I can tell by the look on Alicia's face that she did it on purpose, surprising her mom and me. Her mom lets me in, but she says, "Stand right there." And she really runs, and brings a long white terry cloth robe to wear. And that first visit, Alicia sits on a chair in the living room, and I sit on the couch with her mom, and she stays there with us the whole time. And I don't blame her. If Alicia were my daughter, I'd want to protect her too. Mom is wrong about Dad being so mad that I'm telling other people about the situation. She said I had to tell him about the Van Dorns myself. When I call him at the hospital late Saturday afternoon, I'm all set for a big yelling match. It doesn't happen. Dad listens when I tell him about Alicia, and about her dad and Mom, and he doesn't shout or sputter or interrupt me or anything. He's quiet, and then he says, "If that's the decision you've made, Bobby, then your mom and I will back you up 100%. These people might even end up being a help. Frankly, I've been feeling a little overwhelmed about everything. I've heard of Professor Van Dorn, and I can't wait to meet him and talk about this. I'm surprised he takes the news so well. And as I hang up, I wonder why he's so mellow, and I wonder if this is a real change. But I don't get my hopes up too high. It might just be something the doctor is piping into his brain. I know what Dad means about feeling overwhelmed, and he's right. It's a relief to have a few more people on the official Save Bobby Phillips committee, because this started on Tuesday and now it's Saturday, and that's 5 days. When I woke up this morning, I got scared. Not scared like the last 4 mornings, not scared by the sudden rediscovery that my body is missing. I got scared because I woke up already knowing that I'm like this. That means I'm getting used to it. Nothing's changing, and I'm just rolling along, going with the flow. I'm adjusting to a serious maladjustment, and that's truly frightening. But I'm learning stuff. The real lessons start 2 weeks later when Dad comes home from the hospital, and he's at home with me and Mom for 6 days before he starts commuting to Batavia again. But he's got a blue plastic cast on his left arm from his elbow to his knuckles. Most of the time at home he spends poking through huge stacks of books and scientific journals, and now that he's going to the Fermi lab every day, I have the feeling he's doing the same thing there all day, looking for the science of what's happening. I reminded him about maybe taking a fingernail clipping to put under the electron microscope, but he shook his head and said, "Too early for that. Need to have a better theoretical grip on it first." And Dad's different, or maybe I am, or maybe it's both of us, because there's a lot less yelling. He talks, I listen. I talk, he listens. He still says plenty of stupid stuff, and he still says bingo way too much, but he's definitely not the same person. So one thing I learned is that maybe everyone should have a near-death experience now and then. Sure did the trick for Dad. And I learned that I can have a girlfriend, or at least a friend who's a girl. That's because I talk to Alicia a lot. We talk on the phone and we do instant messaging. She's got a text-to-speech translator on her PC, so whatever I type into a message window, her PC says out loud. She types a lot faster than I do, and we just talk. She tells me how her day stinks, how her mom yells at her, and I tell her how my day stinks and how my mom yells at me. She tells me that the week before she went blind, she checked a book out of the library called Welcome to the Monkey House. It's by Kurt Vonnegut, and she only read the first 3 stories, and now her audiobook supplier can't find a recording of it. So we talk about Vonnegut, and I tell her that my father's favorite book of his is Cat's Cradle. Then I get my mom to buy the Monkey House book, and I read Alicia a couple of the stories over the phone. She says I'm really good at reading aloud, and we just talk about stuff. So that's something I learned I can do. Because before Alicia, what girls did I actually talk to? There's Mom, and then there's about 50 teachers and babysitters and daycare ladies who are all basically like Mom. There's Carla, who was my lab partner in 8th grade science, and she's basically like Dad. And that's pretty much it. So my known female database is pretty limited, because the girls at the lab school are mostly scary, and if any of them want to be friends, they haven't told me. About half the girls at the U High act like they've known what they want to do in life since about 3rd grade. Girls like Megan Murray and Lita Strauss, if they see me at all, they look at me like I'm a bug, something to squash, and they march toward the highest possible class rank. The other half of the girls have money. Girls like Jessica and her crew. They're into clothes and shoes and jewelry and cell phones and beepers, and cars will be next. These girls don't pass notes in class. They send infrared emails to each other on little palm computers. There's Kendra, though. I've talked with her. She plays tenor sax in the jazz band. This solo she plays on Harlem Nocturne, it's so good. It makes me want to take sax lessons. I talk with her once in a while, just talk. Still, Kendra's more like a musician than a girl. So like I said, because of Alicia, I learned that a girl will talk to me, and even seem to enjoy it. We both enjoy it. Back at the end of the first week when I told Dr. Van Dorn, and he got so excited, I thought he and Dad and the committee would get together right away, do some big league brainstorming, work up an action plan to save Bobby Phillips. It doesn't happen, but the committee does agree on one thing, by phone, that if Bobby Phillips is ever going to have a regular life, we must maintain absolute secrecy while we look for a way to get him back to normal. So I learned the hard way that I shouldn't depend on a committee to solve my problems. Sitting on my bed, looking at my bookcase one night during the second week, I see my thick Sherlock Holmes collection. It's all the stories in 2 fat volumes. The great thing about Sherlock Holmes is he never sat around looking for theories. He was into the facts and observation, like in The Adventure of the Speckled Band, about the man who dies in his bed one night and no one can figure it out. It's because no one took the time to really look at the room, and when Holmes does, he sees exactly what happened. That idea sets me off. And over the next few days, whenever I'm not talking to my folks or Alicia or not eating or sleeping, I'm being a detective. I start writing down everything I can remember about the 2 days before the suspect disappeared. What the suspect ate, what he wore, where he went, who he talked to, where he sat, how many times he washed his hands, as much as I can remember. And I tape 4 sheets of typing paper together, end to end, and lay all the information out on a timeline, hour by hour, because there must be a clue somewhere. People don't just disappear. Something or someone had to make it happen. Then I start to think of my room. It's like a crime scene, because that's where I was when it happened. Or maybe I was in the hall bathroom. So I make a list of everything in both rooms. Everything. The carpet, and the light bulbs, and my alarm clock, and the flashlight under my bed, and the pack of firecrackers hidden in my desk, the shampoo in the tub, the plunger under the sink, Dad's old Norelco razor, everything. Then I categorize every item as many different ways as I can think of. Natural, synthetic, liquid, solid, electrical, chemical, wood, metal, plastic, paper, on. And it feels like I'm making progress for a day or two. But by the end of the second week, I'm out of ideas, and no matter how I look at all the information, all I see is an invisible kid looking at nothing, in a mirror. And when I show the list and the timeline to Dad after dinner one night, he says, interesting material, Bobby. I'll hang on to it. But I can tell from his face that Dad doesn't think much of my sleuthing. So another thing I learned is that Sherlock Holmes always finds the right clue, and I don't. Here's something dangerous I learned about myself. I learned that even with a steady fear eating away at me, the fear of being this way forever, and even when I'm working hard to find a solution or just a clue, even then, I can call Alicia or get a snack or read a book, and I can trick myself into feeling almost normal for hours at a time. But the most dangerous thing I learned during this 3 weeks is that people who run schools are nosy. They don't like it when a kid just stops coming. It doesn't matter if it's a public school or one like mine. When you don't show up for a week, they want to know the details. So the school nurse calls the Monday after my mom gets home from the hospital. Mom tells her I've still got the flu. The nurse has heard about the car accident, that Mom and Dad were in the hospital. Mom tells her that Aunt Ethel was here to take care of me. The nurse is glad I'm doing much better now. How much longer will he be missing classes? Another week? Fine. A week later, to the day, the nurse is not curious anymore. Now she's edgy. She calls Mom again. She's getting notes from my teachers in the counseling office, because 2 weeks is a long time to be absent from a high-powered private prep school. It's a lot of classes to miss, not to mention the midterm exams. And Mom chats and tells her not to worry, but Bobby is much better now. Then a half hour later on the same day, Mr. Creed, the guidance counselor, calls Mom and says he's got a huge pile of books and assignments for me. He'd be happy to bring them over to the house. And if the flu isn't infectious anymore, maybe he could talk with Bobby and explain some of the assignments. But Mom says no, don't bother. She'll be happy to stop in at the office because Bobby is still tired a lot. And the counselor says it would be good if the school could have a note from our family doctor about the illness, just for the files, because that's the school policy about long absences. When there's a note in the file, the work can be made up gradually, with no penalties. But Mom and Dad don't have a note from Dr. Weston, because that would mean a house call. Dr. Weston's bedside manner is a little too gossipy, a little too informal for Dad. Dad doesn't want Miss Dr. Weston anywhere near me, so there's no note. The next day, Mom calls Mr. Creed and then goes to pick up my assignments. Her black eyes have turned to a bruised yellow, so no one stares too much when she goes to the counseling center. But when Mom is talking with Mr. Creed and the school nurse happens to pass by, Mrs. Phillips, isn't it? And how's that, Bobby? He has the flu, right? It doesn't feel like a coincidence. Schools aren't in the business of wondering about kids or guessing about kids. Schools are in the business of knowing. And when a school wants to find something out, the school takes steps. Private schools aren't linked with the state government like the public schools are. They actually try to stay free of the state. But one of the ways private schools do that is by following all the rules. And the state has rules about children and extended illnesses and contagious diseases, and it doesn't matter what kind of school the kid attends. So that's why a second Save Bobby Phillips committee gets going. At the beginning, it's the nurse, my teachers, the guidance counselor, and the people who run the school. Maybe it's the nurse or the counselor or somebody else at school. Maybe it's nobody at school. But it's somebody, and I vote for the nurse. Because somebody calls the Cook County Board of Health and reports that a 15-year-old boy attending University High School has been home ill for 3 weeks. The parents have not supplied a note from a doctor. No one has ever seen the child, me that is, during the past 3 weeks. And then somebody at the Board of Health calls the Department of Children and Family Services. So the second Save Bobby Phillips committee is getting bigger. And this committee has an action plan. Chapter 15, A Small War. It's another Monday morning, and after 3 full weeks at home, a ringing doorbell is a major event in my life. So I drop The Lord of the Rings on my bed and trot to the landing at the top of the front hall staircase. I bend down to look, and I can see that Mom is standing in the front doorway, and I listen. Mrs. Phillips? Yes. How do you do? My name is Officer Martha Paget, and I'm from the school and truancy division of the State Department of Children and Family Services. May I come in? Is there a problem? When my mom says that, I tiptoe to my room, pull off my clothes, and hustle down the back stairs. I want to see the action. By the time I get up to the front of the house, Mom is still standing squarely in the doorway. She's not even going to let the woman into the front hall. I'm about 4 feet away, looking at them through the French doors that open to the front hall from the parlor. The woman is shorter than Mom. Most women are. She's got a narrow face, and her brown hair is pulled back into some kind of twisty thing. Thick lenses in her wire-frame glasses make her eyes look big. She's wearing a blue skirt jacket. Her coat has a small American flag on the left lapel. Her white shirt is buttoned all the way up, and there's a black briefcase in her left hand. The lady is smiling, nodding, talking, and Mom is listening, trying to look pleasant, her arms folded across her chest. So naturally, there's some concern about Bobby. I'm sure you'll agree that 3 weeks is an uncommonly long illness. Since the school has not received a note from a physician, we've been asked to make a visit and simply verify that Bobby's on the mend and that everything's going fine at home. So this isn't just a chat. This lady wants to see a body. My body. I can see the wheels spinning behind Mom's eyes. She's smiling. It looks like a real smile, but I know better. That's her. I'm just barely not ripping your head off smile. Raising her eyebrows, still smiling, Mom says, And you believe you have the authority to march up my front steps and into my home and ask to see my sick child? Is that what you're saying? Do you have a search warrant? This social worker doesn't know Emily Colton Phillips. For example, she doesn't know that Mom got pushed around by Chicago cops when she was 18 during the 1968 Democratic Convention, and Mom pushed back. I've seen the news footage. Then 2 years later, she chained herself to the door of the university president's office. She stayed there 6 days until he promised to hire more women as professors. The lady looks up at Mom. I can see her stiffen and tighten her grip on the handle of her briefcase. She keeps smiling too, but I can see it's just a mask. I'm looking at a small war between two smart women. Without raising her voice, she says, "You mean today? Do I have a search warrant right now?" "No, Mrs. Phillip, not today. But I can assure you that I do have every right under the child protection laws of the state of Illinois to have a brief visit with your son. And if I need to have a search warrant to accomplish that, then I can certainly get one." Mom waves her hand as if to whisk away that idea. "Oh, don't mind me, Mrs. Badger. It's Mrs. Paget," says the woman in blue. Mom laughs lightly, still smiling. "Yes, Miss Paget. Please forgive me. I must sound like I'm ready to call a press conference and accuse you of being a jackbooted government thug or something. That's just my old radical upbringing talking. Of course you can talk to Bobby. You can talk to him right now, except for one problem. He's not here." The lady looks surprised, almost as surprised as I am. She says, "Oh, I see. Do you mind my asking where he is?" She's stooping now, putting her briefcase flat on the porch floor. She opens it and takes out a pen and a yellow legal pad. "Not at all. It's so cold and damp this time of year in Chicago. What with his illness and the accident and all, Mr. Phillips and I decided that some time away would be good for Bobby. He left Thursday to stay with a relative in Florida for a month or so." Mrs. Paget is surprised. "Florida?" She's standing up now, writing. Mom nods, smiles sweetly. "Yes, we are withdrawing Bobby from school for the rest of this semester. He just missed his midterm exams, you know, and we don't want him to feel burdened with all the makeup work. It's just too much right now, and his health has to come first." Scribbling on the yellow pad, the woman nods. "Yes, of course, and where in Florida will he be?" Mom says, "Down in the southern part, where it's nice and warm." The woman frowns slightly, but keeps writing, and without looking up, she says, "And when do you expect Bobby to come home?" With a shrug and a smile, Mom says, "Hard to say. Certainly not until he's feeling like his old self again. Now, Miss Paget, is there anything else I can help you with this morning?" The lady looks up into Mom's face. Her eyes slightly narrowed, her lips pressed together. There's a pause, and the silence is filled with questions. Questions like, "Where is he, really?" And, "Do you know how fast I could have a search warrant?" And, "You know this isn't over, don't you?" Then she bends down to put her pad and pen back into the briefcase. The latches click. She straightens up, looks at Mom in the face, and says, "I think that's all the help I need today, Mrs. Phillips. Thanks so much for your time." Mom meets the lady's eyes and smiles. They both know that round one is over. Mom won. "You're quite welcome. Bye now." When the lady's heels have tapped across the wooden porch and down the steps, Mom turns around and calls softly, "Bobby?" I open up the French doors. "In here, Mom." "So now I'm in Florida, huh? Cool." "I can hear you smiling, Bobby, and you shouldn't be. This isn't funny." Mom moves quickly to the lace curtains up the front bay window and peeks out. "These people are like pit bulls. See that?" I looked over her shoulder, and the social worker is standing on the porch next door, talking with Mrs. Trent, taking notes. "That lady is on a case. You are the case, Bobby. And your father and I, the school nurse, and the Board of Health Department of Children and Family Services have got their little collective brain into a tizzy about one missing boy, and they're going to push until they get answers. This isn't funny, but I think it is. Right? So what do they think? Do they think you murdered me and put me down this garbage disposer or something? Or maybe I'm locked in a closet. Come on, Mom, get real." Mom isn't smiling. Her face is so pale that the bruises under her eyes look bright as goldfinches. Her lips are tight, her words clipped. "No, Robert, you get real. You don't understand this situation. This is not a joke. This is the state. These people have real power, and they are not afraid to use it. Kids do get hurt by the parents and others, and someone's got to be allowed to look around if things are suspicious. And right now, our situation looks very suspicious. It's not going to surprise me one bit if that woman and 6 of Chicago's finest come back here in an hour with a search warrant and complete authority to tear this house apart, looking for one Bobby Phillips, male Caucasian, age 15 years, last seen by Mrs. Trent, getting out of the cab on the evening his parents were involved in a car crash when he was already supposed to be home from school with a severe case of the flu. So don't laugh about this. This is a real mess, and it's dangerous for you. And I don't want these people taking you away from me. And now I've got to call Aunt Ethel." Mom runs to the den and calls her aunt and tells her that if she gets contact from anyone asking about me, she's to say that I've been there since March 13th and that I arrived by train. Or maybe it would be a good idea to let her answer machine screen the calls for the next week or so, because if you don't talk to anyone, you can't very well be charged with perjury. And really, maybe the best idea is to check into a nice hotel under her maiden name for a week or so, at our expense, of course. Would she mind terribly? And if you want to talk, please call our cell phone number. And when Aunt Ethel asks for details, Mom feels like she has to give them to her. So she takes about 3 minutes and tells the condensed version of how Bobby became a fugitive from the law. And Aunt Ethel is the only one, so far, who isn't fazed by the idea of an invisible teenager. She says something like, "Well, isn't that curious? He must fly down here at once so he can be my bridge partner." So now Great Aunt Ethel is in on the secret. Mom's wrong about one thing, though. It's when she says that the social worker could be back in an hour with a search warrant to tear the house apart. Actually, it only takes Mrs. Paget 45 minutes.